Hey, everybody. My name is Drew Contreras. I am the Vice President of Clinical Innovation and Integration at the American Physical Therapy Association. And I want to thank you for tuning in today. Um, I'm here to have the initial kickoff live stream event for APTA's Fit for Practice powered by Hyperice. So, first off, thanks for jumping in with us today. A little bit about the Fit for Practice initiative. We know that over the last 18 months plus, throughout the pandemic, things have been really, really hard. The profession has seen difficulties that we've never experienced before. We've had people who are walking away from the profession, people who are just burned out, people who are having to balance ridiculous amounts of productivity, home balance, kids at being schooled zooming from home, just craziness, right? And all these things have just had this massive weight put on the shoulders of the profession, and we feel that, right? We know it, and as a practicing clinician, I see it too. And we sat together and said we need to come up with a plan to help each other out, because it's really up to us. Nobody's coming to help us. Nobody's going to fix it for us. We have to sit down and start taking care of each other, and finding a way that we can all kind of flip the switch and get things going again. It's not returning to normal, it's the new normal, right? Things have changed, and we have to address that and accept it, and then start to move on. And Fit for Practice is designed to do exactly that. We're bringing you a ton of just free content to try and give you resources to help deal with the things that are difficult for you, whether that's your movement, your personal ability to get going, to exercise, whether that's stress management and resiliency, whether that's your nutrition or sleep, whether that's you're struggling to just do the bare minimum to keep your license, right? To get your license renewed. You can't have time to get a CEU course in. We're here to give you resources to help with that. And that's it. This is for the profession, by the profession. We've got a whole group of partners, some PTs, some outside of PT, some outside of the complete industry altogether, just to bring resources for you guys to help take care of you. That's really what it's about. It's all free. You don't have to be an APTA member. You know, you don't even have to be actually a clinician. So if you've got support staff in your clinics or wherever that needs this information, share it with them. That's what this is about. This is just about helping each other. And if you're watching this and it's recorded, right, and you're coming back to it and you want to sign up to get the weekly rundown of what's coming up, you can sign up at www.apta.org/fit-for-practice. And every week we'll send you a list out of all the programming that's coming up, what the live events are, what the recorded events are, what CEU opportunities or things that kind of speak to you. If that's something that's interested to you, awesome. Sign up, join us as we go through this campaign. So this week, this is the very first event, and the first thing we're going to talk about is movement, because let's face it, we're the movement professionals, right? And this week's movement is really focusing on getting you to where you should be. For a lot of us, right, the pandemic took a serious hit on the way that we moved, whether that was like me, right? My stress management, my movement, a lot of it was all gym based. And when the gym closed, like everybody else, I just thought, oh, I'll just go buy some equipment. Yeah, me and everybody else in the world decided to try and buy a set of weights at the same time for home, right? Didn't work out. Struggled trying to figure out what to do. Maybe you're still stuck in that. Maybe you're used to doing classes with your friends or your crew, right? That was how you got your movement in, and that's closed and hasn't come back. Or maybe it just has to look different now. Maybe you tried to switch to doing things outside and it was just so crowded you realize I can't do this either, right? Whatever the reasons are, wherever it is you're at right now, right? We want to try and find a way to get you moving to the place that you want to be at, right? And then to get there, let's be honest, right? We are the worst patients. We are the worst people to address this ourselves. So we've partnered with somebody who's really all about this, an amazing company called Exos. And today from Exos, I have with us our guest of the day is Omi from Exos. So want to say welcome, Omi. Good to see you,
Thank
man.
you. Good to see you.
So Omi's coming to us all the way from Los Angeles. So between Washington D.C. and L.A., we've got the entire continental U.S. covered. So welcome, Omi. Go ahead and take a minute to introduce yourself, man.
Yeah, sure. My name's Omi. I work for a company called Exos. We're a human performance company. Started off really focusing on the elite athlete. That's kind of where we started from. And now we're working into all sectors. We do have a private physical therapy business. We have community and kind of this employer kind of, I guess, fitness and wellness company that also focuses on the wellness of our employer populations. But yeah, I've been a physical therapist since 1999. I've been in all kinds of different outpatient experiences. Has been primarily my thing. And I've been with Exos now for 19 years, and I'm not a practicing clinician today, but still actively involved.
Still a member of the PT family, right?
PT family, absolutely.
Right. So today specifically, we want to talk to you guys that are tuning in, where you're having to balance work, you taking care of that caseload, whether that's 12 to 15 patients a day, whether that's trying to balance between getting people up in the wards, whether that's getting the post-op patient standing up, whatever that is, right? But we know that that's a challenge to fit this in. And how do we do it? So just big high level, Omi, like considering all the demands of the PT profession and what's been going on with the global pandemic, if your exercise and your personal movement has been put on the back burner because of all the other demands, right? What is the first thing you would say? Like, this is what we have. This is the first thing to address, to get kind of going in the right direction again.
Yeah, the first thing I think is to give ourselves permission. I think people think it's selfish, or we don't have the time, or we're so busy taking care of our patients, our business, our families, our kids, whatever that is. I mean, we have all these things, but like, you have to take care of yourself. You're no good to others if you're not functioning at your best. And whether it is just for stress relief, whether it is getting back into a passion, joy, hobby of sports or activities or going to the gym, whatever it is, I mean, you have to give yourself permission. And I think that's the number one thing. I think we have a tendency to be caregivers, and we think about others before ourselves. And we think putting ourselves first is like a bad thing, but it's really not. You have to give yourself permission that it's okay.
That's so true, right? Like you said, you spend your entire day focused on this, and this is something that you're busy making sure that everybody else is taken care of. It's always the same thing. The saying of if you're on the airplane, right, and the masks come down from the ceiling, you need to put your own mask on first before you help somebody else, right?
Absolutely.
And that's so true, right? It's difficult for us to be a movement profession if we don't at least move ourselves, right? If we're not at least taking care of those things, right? So like what's the easiest barrier, right? The same thing that we all say is like, it's just too busy, right? It's just too much. There's too much. I don't have time for it, right? And that's always that's the easiest number one thing that people say. So when people say like it's a time problem, right? What's your answer to that?
Yeah, I think it is an excuse, honestly. I mean, how much time are we spending on our devices? How much time are we spending watching TV? How much are we spending? We tend to find time for that. So I think when we say we don't have time, I'm not willing to make the time right now. And again, it doesn't need to be this formal thing. It doesn't need to be going to the gym for 2 hours. It could be 10 minutes of intentional movement practice that you're integrating into your day. And you can even do that while watching TV. You can do it as your downtime. You can do it right before you go to bed. I think there's time and place where you don't have to have a full weight set at home or a full gym, honestly. You can have a couple soft goods at home. You can just have a mat at home. You can just have some quiet space. I think it's just scheduling that into our day. No different than scheduling patients in or scheduling appointments or any other commitments we have in our lives. I think it's just making that commitment and just scheduling it in. And I know I live by my schedule, my work schedule, my phone, and it's on my phone, and as well as my home schedule, my kids' schedules, games, practices, shuttling kids, whatever it is. All of that is in my phone. So you have to schedule intentional time for you to do something for yourself. And again, that could just be 5-10 minutes, honestly. It doesn't need to be this massive thing.
That's great, right? And sometimes that's hard that's hard to wrap your brain around, right? Especially just kind of like you said, giving yourself permission and understanding that it doesn't need to be an hour and a half workout, right? It can be just a little bit, right? For all you tuning in, if you've got some questions, you can drop them in the comment section, and we'll get to them as we kind of progress this conversation along. We'd love to hear from you guys what your thoughts are, what your questions are specifically with Omi. Again, want to thank Omi for joining us from Exos and just kind of bringing a knowledge and perspective that is both, understanding who we are as a cohort, as a PT family, but also as somebody who works, with high level performance things, right? That it might be, kind of working at a level above where the majority of our PT profession is at. So here's a question you and I talked about just a little bit, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about trying to work out where you work? How does that make you feel?
Yeah. No, I've worked in various clinics, and even within my current employer, working out at work is a different thing. You work out in front of your peers, or maybe there's clients or patients or things that might still be lingering. You don't want to do that at work. So, or you're tired. You want a separation. You want to get out of there. So I can totally sympathize with that. And I think, people go, oh, you're so lucky you have access to all this great equipment and all these things, but sometimes you just need to go somewhere else. So I think you need to have a dedicated space that is kind of a separation from work as well as home. And I know it's been challenging during the last 18 months plus, where maybe you are working from home, or maybe you're always in the same environment. So, some of us were able to continue to work, but I think you need a dedicated space that is not work or home, ideally, that you can actually kind of unplug, if you will, because it is hard to unplug if you're still at work and you're thinking about work, or people or your peers or others are asking you questions or whatever else comes up. So,
I got to be honest, right? The thing I always struggled with was if I was at a gym and anybody knew what I did, right? It became work, right? Immediately, right? Like you're just trying to get some reps in on the rack, or you just want to put, but somebody's like, hey, I'm not like, I'm going to say it. I don't know. Should my knees go over my toes?
Ooh,
I don't know.
Don't say it. Don't say it. Yeah,
So,
no. And therapists we're judgy people. We're always looking at people. So then, are people judging you of, oh, you're not doing that exercise right? Or, I saw that compensation, or, should you really be lifting that much weight, or should your knees pass your toes, or whatever.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, it's a butt wink. What are we going to do? Right? Like,
oh no.
Right. So the reality is, right, we like you said, like we're judgy people because all we do is observe all day long. You're always observing. And I think you are right. Finding a space where you feel comfortable at, wherever that is. Like, and like you said, I know it's like you said, it seems like, well, if I've got the stuff at work, but I agree with you, right? Sometimes you've got to have a space away from work where you can do that. And again, giving yourself kind of that permission to focus on yourself, right? To be able to kind of do it. So, one of the things that I think happens a lot is, like you said, we're professionals in this area, and we're judgy of ourselves, and we think we can do it all. Like I can do it myself. I have a doctorate in this. I know exactly what I'm doing.
I'm the expert.
Right. What do you think about trying to train yourself?
Yeah. My advice to that is seek advice from another professional, hire a coach. It's okay. You don't need to know everything. You're not the expert in everything. And a lot of times you can't see yourself. You can judge others, but it's hard to look within. So hire a person. I mean, the biggest growth that I've had is working with other practitioners in or out of this field, so, our company has a mix of professionals, but these strength and conditioning specialists, these performance specialists that we work with, I mean, that's been my highest growth of comparing ideas, asking them for advice, looking at where their wheelhouse is, which is in the strength and conditioning field, where our rehab field, we think we can do it all, but sometimes we can't, and that's okay. Hire a coach. The other thing is, like, there's accountability that's already built in. And it doesn't mean you have to pay for something. People go, oh, well, I can't pay for a coach, or that's too expensive, or whatever it is. You don't, it doesn't have to be. You could trade services. You could do all kinds of other things, but hire someone that will help build some of that accountability. Now you're accountable to someone else. You're on their time and their schedule. You don't have to think about what it is that you're going to go do. You can actually be the client. You can actually just listen and take orders, and you don't have to think about anything. But then it can also be, very professional. You can share ideas, you can collaborate, which will open up a lot more doors and avenues for you. So I just think everyone deserves a coach, honestly, in their life, and you should look for help.
And so when you're talking about like, okay, maybe, somebody on here is like, okay, I'm going to take that jump. I'm going to find a coach. I'm going to find somebody that's going to help me out with that. What type of kind of characteristics or what type of things should you look for in a coach or somebody to work with?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard, right? I mean, just because someone has credentials behind their name, doesn't mean you're good. Doesn't mean so you got to look to your peers, look to your friends, look for recommendations. It's like, unfortunately, every PT that has a PT or DPT behind their name isn't the same. We're not all the same. Right. So, you may have great therapists and you may have mediocre therapists. So it's the same with any other profession or any other coach, or maybe it's a yoga teacher, or maybe it's whatever. Go with the community that you live in, go with your peers, look for recommendations, look for that interpersonal skills, look for that person that, is there, look at the community that they've built, and try to go with that. Honestly, I think that's probably the place to start. It's like anything. You ask your peers, you ask your community, you ask, your network of who they recommend, and just give it a shot, honestly.
I think that's really important, right? I think it's really important to kind of, like you said, find somebody that is kind of at that level that you want to be at, right? I also think it's important to find somebody that, the lines of communication work really well, right? That, I think a lot of people's fear, right? Is you get into this situation and they may kind of be the expectations you are afraid are going to be higher than you can do, right? Sure. Right. So I think that's kind of a fear, right? Like somebody's gonna expect me to kind of jump in here and be, I don't know, start off benching, 225 for reps and blah, 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 whatever it is, right? So you kind of have that avoidance, and that's, I think, some inertia to getting started. So I think that especially, right, to be honest, everybody kind of has a blank check for zeroing out, right? At this time, you could show up anywhere and be like, hey, man, I haven't been to the gym in 22 months. And nobody would think anything weird about that. Like, yeah, exactly. It's been rough.
It's okay.
Right? So I feel like it's a good time, to kind of to hit the reset button or to re-entry into this, right? Like we were talking about. I think that's a good time.
And it's fair to test it out. It's like a test drive. You don't have to make a commitment with someone that you don't even know. Go try it out. Try a class pass. Go to a bunch of different studios or go try different things. It's like you also have to fit where it fits your lifestyle. It fits your schedule. It fits your, your communication style or your vibe. So I think it's worth getting out there and checking out. Honestly, I think getting started is the hardest. You have to build that inertia, like you said. Once you get in motion and you find that thing, it'll work out. It's easier to stay in motion once you're in motion. But
right.
You have to try it out. I mean, I tell people that you have to look in your community and go try a few places. You don't have to go with the closest one to your house. You don't have to go with the first one that you try. You don't have to sign any long-term commitments. Just try it out. Try out some different people. Try out some different things. See what resonates. Try something that you've never done before. Maybe you're like, hey, I want to try yoga, or I want to try Zumba, or I want to, like you said, hey, you bought a Peloton over this break. You never thought you'd be a Peloton user, and you're like,
never.
Right?
So. Exactly, right? So like I couldn't find any weights, but I found a Peloton. I've never.
You could just lift your Peloton over your head.
Right. Like look, my whole plan in life was always to just pick up heavy things over and over, right? That was kind of what I like to do. Right? But then, you got what you got. And so I linked into this, started doing this Peloton, which is not me at all, right? Like not at all. Nothing about me says, oh yeah, that guy probably rides the Peloton a lot, right? But what I found was, right, there was a community and it just kind of worked for me. It worked because it was flexible, because I could do it on demand. I could do it, in small 20-minute increments. I could do it if I had more time. I could do longer stuff. And then,
and no one's looking at you. You can do it
right,
in the privacy of your own home.
right. I could, some of us, like when we're doing our cardio, right, we got ugly faces, right? You get the ugly running face, or right. And the reality is, right, I could say whatever I wanted to that screen.
But you still have someone guiding you. That's a form of a coach. You still have someone guiding you. They're telling you exactly what to do, and you just follow along. You blindly follow, which sometimes you need in life.
And that's exactly how I felt about it, right? That just the ability to just focus on that and not have to think about it, not have to think about, well, after I do this lift, maybe I should do this. After this set, I'm going to do this, or to lay that out. So one of the things, the article that Exos gave us this week, one of the things that they mention is have a plan, right? Yes. It's to kind of prep for your exercise, to be intentional about it. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. You have to have a plan, and you want to try to remove barriers, for the plan. If you're going to ride a Peloton and you need clip-in shoes or whatever the case is, like, you need to have those things. You need to have something comfortable to wear while you work out. Have all those things ready for you so there's no excuses. Prepare for your day so it's no different. And again, if you're going to do this right after work and you're leaving your clinic and you're going to go to a studio, or you're going to go to the gym, or you're going to go to whatever, have all that ready for you so there's no barrier, there's no excuse. Because once you go home, you're not going out. You're not going back out. So, plan your day, have your things set up, have a meal, have a pre-meal or a post-meal that's ready for you, so it's easy. I think prepping is huge, and it'll make things easier. It'll just remove those barriers, because we're good at excuses. We're good at finding excuses. So if you can prepare your life in that way to remove those barriers, I think it'll go a long way. And it's scheduled. It's a non-negotiable at the end of the day. If it's in your calendar, that's like it's no different than a patient showing up. You have a client at this time. This is when this is non-negotiable. And again, hopefully you have a supportive family and a supportive network of system that, for your own home life that allows you to, that's okay as well, but I think those are things that you have to do for sure.
So in addition to that, right, something you just touched on is a supportive family and a supportive network.
Yeah.
Right. I think that I think, like, at times, right, this thought process of mine is that it's like trying to quit smoking when all your friends smoke, right? Like, that's kind of hard, right? If you're whole, right? So sometimes, right, I think it's okay to find a cohort or a crew like that is that's your workout crew, right? Or that's your team for that specific theme. And it doesn't have to be the people that you're normally with, right? It can be an addition, or, some of us can transition, right? Like maybe you've got kids and, you start working in, I'm going to add a little bit of workout here before I'm throwing batting practice, or before I'm hitting the soccer field today. But I think that's so important for us to understand that community involvement, right, is important, to have that support network, right? It's no different than when we're working with the patient and we say, hey, so when you get home, right, I need to make sure that you've got somebody's helping you to do these things, or that you've got this network to help your rehab process. So it's funny, right? It just really kind of mirrors that. But I think that we downplay how important that is sometimes.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And again, you can involve, I have 3 kids, and 2 are in high school and 1's in 5th grade. And when they were younger, it's challenging. I mean, my high school kids, they don't want anything to do with me now, so they're easy. But, I have a 5th grader, he's 10, but during the pandemic, we would ride bikes around the neighborhood. We would go on walks. We have a COVID dog, so pandemic dog. So we got a puppy. So involving your family into that. I mean, again, walking around the block for 15, 20 minutes, that is a workout. Like, you have to give yourself credit that is intentional movement that you program through your day. It's not that you went to CrossFit for an hour, or you went to lift weights for an hour and a half, or you did, some sort of high intensity HIIT class for 60 minutes or whatever. I think our our idea of movement has to change, and it doesn't have to always be these structured, formalized things. 15, 20 minutes of walking with your family is a great way to spend time outside. It's a great time with your family. You're getting exercise at the same time. So, plan it out.
I love it. Right. And I think, right, we have such a mental barrier between what we describe as exercise and kind of what our profession thinks of it as, right? Like you said, like you never have this problem, right? But in a couple of months, I'm going to have some white stuff on the ground that I'm going to have to deal with, right? And, shoveling a however long driveway you have, right? Like you said, like it's like it really is, right? We have to break this down a little bit to like just any exercise, any movement is okay, and to give us credit for that, right? To take credit for that, I think is really important.
And that's a start, and that's a way. I mean, one of the questions was like, how do you structure that within your busy day? That is, those are. I mean, I don't luckily have to shovel snow, but that is something that you can, or you work in a hospital. When I worked in the hospital, I took the stairs. I never took the elevator. I took the stairs. So I am intentionally getting in movement throughout my day. So like you can park for a little bit further. I know people don't like to park far. Park on a little bit further. Park on a different structure. Take the stairs. Like those are things that you can sneak into your day where you can just intentionally get that movement throughout your day that isn't formal exercise. So I think it's important.
Another thing we talked about a little bit was trying something new, right? Like kind of getting in there. So there's one thing that, I just want to point out for anybody that's tuning in this week. We have a short beginners yoga series, some YouTube videos that one of our great members, Melody, has put together for us. And it's absolutely, if you have never, ever thought about yoga, you have no idea what you're doing whatsoever, this is for you, right? So we want to try and put some new things out there for people to kind of try, right? Try something different, right? And I think that if you try something that's kind of movement based, right? I think that if it's something new, right, you're going to find it challenging, right? It's going to be difficult for you just because you've never done it before, right? If you've never done a downward dog, right? Like, give it 30 seconds, you're going to realize, man, I've never done this before. This is a lot harder than I thought, right? That was my dose of reality after the first 5 minutes of being on a Peloton. Like, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be, right? So when
you're humbled really quickly.
Yeah, exactly, right? So when people are but as we encourage people to do new things, right?
Yeah.
What are some things that people should be thinking about of like, okay, hey, I'm going to start this thing. I'm going to start this workout program, or I'm going to do these things. What are some things that you would tell people like, hey, think about this, or these are things that you should consider as you go forward?
Yeah, I think people have to be realistic with their expectations. You don't go 0 to 100 right away. You gotta give yourself time. So it's like, oh, I'm going to go 5 days in a row this week, and it's a new activity. No, space it out. Give yourself time. And then again, there's aspects of your own movement competency and your own movement literacy that you have to address. If we all have aches and pains, and we all think it's okay, or I'm just getting to this age. Like, I'm going to be 50 this year, and that doesn't mean that that's an excuse for me to say I can't do something because I'm going to be 50 or whatever the case is. Or if I lift heavy weights, it's because, it's normal for people to have aches and pains when they lift weights or whatever the case is. Like, I'm training regularly with people that are in their 20s and 30s, and they're complaining of their old age. And I'm like, hey guys, I'm turning 50 this year. So like, there's no excuse, but you have to own it. No one's coming to save you. No one's coming to fix you. You have to fix yourself. So we live in our own body. We have to own it, and we need to walk the talk. So we are in this profession. We advocate for movement, and we advocate for movement, how that fits into your lifestyle, whatever it is. So we have to own that. And if you need help there too, that's okay. It's okay. Ask another clinician. We should know a few. Ask for help. And honestly, and then you have to do the work too. So we complain about our clients and our patients not doing their home programs and they're not being compliant. We're the worst offenders, but take that in, again, understanding what are the movement demands for what activity that you want to do, and what are you doing intentionally to support the movement demands that you need to be able to do. So if you can't do a downward dog, the human body, you can figure out why is it that I can't get into this position, and what do I need to do to get myself there? And again, knowing modifications and those type of things. Like, you don't have to do the downward dog like, the yogi that's been practicing for 20 years. You may need to bend your knees. You may need to do some different things you don't have to lock out, like all of these things. But I don't know, just ask for help, honestly, at the end of the day. And then you have to own it.
Absolutely. Right. And then, one thing that we've incorporated into this week's information, because like for some of us, right, that work in outpatient or sports medicine or in human performance, right,
Yeah.
talking about soft tissue mobility, talking about moving your addressing your limitation, your barrier limitations is kind of second nature, right? But
Yeah.
let's be clear, right? That's a small subset of our physical therapy family, right? This is not everybody, right? Not everybody lives in this world. So one of the things we've done is we've put together a couple of great short videos from some great massage therapists and other practitioners about simple things you can do to address your own soft tissue limitations, things that you can do to help your own movement, right? And I encourage you guys, if that's something that's new to you, to kind of click in those videos, look at it, watch it, digest some of that, and look at it and say like, hey, maybe this does speak to me, right? Maybe that is something that I'm missing some movement. I've got some stiff ankles. I don't have quite as much flexibility there, so it's limiting me, right? Take a look at those things and find ways that you can start doing some of this base work, right? So that, like you said, so that when you jump into these bigger, or you progress to these new movements or new activities, you have at least somewhat of a plan to help yourself kind of get through there, right? And let's be honest, right? If you aren't quite sure, right, there's tons of opinions on Instagram. Just jump on Instagram. You can get all the opinions you want, right?
Absolutely.
So again, right, like you alluded earlier, right? Everybody's got an opinion, some good, some not so good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go to some trusted sources, right? When you're trying to decide, look at the resume, look at the background, look at the type of people who are going. Ask your friends, right?
Yes.
Ask your people that are in this space. Hey, what do you do? What are you looking at? Pull this into your family, right? Pull this into your plan about how you're going to do this and how you're going to address it, right?
Yeah, and go get assessed as well. Go get assessed from someone. If that, so maybe you don't work in kind of the sports performance or sport orthopedic realm. Go get assessed. Put yourself out there. I mean, again, it sucks. It sucks to look within, but like, go get assessed. Go work on those things again, because no one's going to fix you. You can only fix yourself, and movement is the key. So, I think you got to take that accountability at the end of the day. And you can start with those videos at home. That's great. No one's watching you. There's no pressure. You can stop the video. It's not all or none. You can just do the first 15 minutes and just focus on those things. Maybe that's the warm up, and that's enough for you. That's okay. That's the power of things now with the internet. You can do things at home. There's plenty of free content on YouTube, and some good, some not so good, but like, there's a lot out there. Try it. And again, if you have to break up that session into 3 or 4 sections and you can't do the whole session all in one sitting, that's okay. Do it. Practice it. It's a practice. It's no different than our clinical practice. We don't know everything when we get out of school. We don't know everything now. It's a practice. It's continuous improvement. Think about that as your own body as continuous improvement. You are continually working on movement.
I love that idea, right? That I don't know, maybe you should see somebody that helps with this kind of stuff, right? And like, I don't know, see a PT, right? Like, it's a crazy thought, but like you said, it's so against our nature to look and say, you know what, I could use another set of eyes, right? I could use some help with this, or it's the same. I always think about, right, like, no matter how great an athlete you are in whatever sport, they always have a coach, right?
Yes.
Every baseball player has a hitting coach, right? Or a pitching coach, right? Every great golfer has a swing coach, right? Every quarterback has a throwing coach. Like, because no matter how good you are at something, you can't look at your own faults all the time, right? You need people to help you and coach you and guide you. And I think that's so important. If that's all people hear from us today, right? Like, get some help with this if this is something that you're struggling with, right? I think that it needs to be said just over and over, right? People just got to hear it, right?
And it's okay. It's okay as well. That's the big takeaway is that it's okay. You don't have to know it all. You don't have to be able to take it all on. You don't have to own it all. You can't fix everything. So I think if people can just understand that that's okay. And it's a process, it's like, oh man, how did I get here? Everyone gained some weight during COVID. It's like it sneaks up on you. Like, it's okay. The nice thing is that we can reverse that. We're plastic. We can change. We have the ability to change. But I think just giving that permission to yourself, don't be so hard on yourself. And it's 1% better, like working on small gains, small wins, and just keep stacking those and you'll gain momentum. But again, don't be afraid to ask for help. I think there's a network of people that you should know just being in this industry as well as, or if you don't want those people to know, go outside of it. That's fine too.
Absolutely.
Be anonymous.
Right?
Don't tell people what you do. Just go in and ask for help from someone.
Exactly. Just tell them you do something completely different, right?
Yeah.
That's because right. Because how judgy we are.
Because then they'll be judgy. Hey, what do you mean? You're a therapist and you have pain or you don't know what you're doing?
Yeah, right. So listen, I want to recap some of the things we talked about, right? I want to make sure that, we're kind of setting this up for everybody that's tuning in today or whether it's recorded, right? So the first thing like you just talked about is like giving yourself permission, right?
Yeah.
Let's make sure that we have permission to kind of go through this, right? Like give yourself the time and the permission. We also talked about having a space, right? And for some of us, that is not where we work, right? It needs to be away from that, right? Maybe it's in your home, maybe it's in your buddy's garage, right? Maybe that's at the gym around the corner, or maybe it's nowhere near where you live, so you can do it and nobody who knows you will ever see you making your ugly face when you're working out, right? I think the next thing we talked about is seeking advice, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to get help. It's okay to be coached. Anybody who's trying to coach themselves, right, is not going to do well, right? We're pretty clear about that. I think the other thing we talked about is making sure that we are, you have a plan and that you've prepared, right?
Yeah.
So you have a plan on how you're going to execute this. You've put it into your schedule. You've made a plan for how to do this. And then you've done the prep work, whether that's laying out your clothes, whether that's, clearing the schedule, whether that's having the pre-workout or the plan of where you're going to eat after you're done, right? Having a plan to do it. And the last thing you talked about that I think is really important is understanding that it's a process, right? That this is a process. And if you're starting this process, it's not going to be over in a day or two, right? That this is short gains, I believe is what you said, right? Find those short gains and kind of go from there.
And the other big one was the support system in the community. Like find your community, find your support system, work within your own system as well. And if you have a family or you have significant others, you have people that are home, like, you need to plan it around them as well, or involve them. And then if you don't have that as well, and you're single and you're working through stuff, I mean, find your support system, find friends, find peers, find a network, find a gym, and maybe your gym family, you have a gym family. That's okay. I have a gym family that and they become more than just gym friends, but find that support system that works for you. Find that community that's not judgy and that's open, that'll take you in. And then they count on you too. So now you also need to be there for them as much as you need them to be there for you. So I think that's super important. Again, and that takes time to find. That's not always easy to find. But that's where you got to try out, different places and different communities and see which one vibes with you the best. So
that's so important, right? And then the last thing I want to say is it's okay to try something new, right? Like we talked about. So this week in the programming that we're providing, we're introducing some yoga, right? We're going to introduce some other opportunities. We're going to talk about other movement things for people to just go out and try, right? Whether that's another, movement and strength-based thing like Pilates, right? Something like that, right? We're going to introduce some stuff like that for people. Like, hey, maybe that you find out that's your thing, right? Or maybe it's something completely different, like Tai Chi, right? Or maybe it's a bar class or a dance class, right? All those things that are just new and just something that
I can tell you're a bar guy, right, Drew? I mean,
yeah, right. You know what? But
But you never know. It might be. It might be your thing.
I never thought I would be jamming on a spin bike, right? And I will just say, right, that
you got the full spandex kit too, top bottom.
Yeah, right. And
nice.
right, my repertoire of exercise music has been expanded greatly, right? There's some music that I never thought I'd listen to. Like now I'm like, oh yeah, that's my jam, right?
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, right, and then we also want to bring some other things that are just totally movement based, just off this path, like golf, right? We're gonna bring some golf people and talk about that, right? Like it's a game, yeah, but you know what? Walking 18 holes, getting out there swinging a club, right? Maybe it's something that you've just never done, you've never tried, right?
Yeah.
But you know, something like that, right? Just opportunities and giving yourself permission to try something new, I think is really important, right? And we all get in our ruts, we all get in our comfort zone of things that we like, things that we're comfortable with, things that, you know, we are predictable for us, so we don't have to go you know, kind of outside of our comfort zone.
But uncomfortable. It's okay.
Yeah, right. Like I'm gonna be honest, right? If I was out in LA, I'd be bothering you, like, let's go find the surfboards, right?
Yeah, let's go
try it, right?
Yeah.
You know, not so much in DC, especially, you know, the water's getting a little cold. Right. But I mean, I mean, you know,
that's the next phase. Just find things that make you uncomfortable and go after it. But I mean, you know, that's a little scary at first when you're starting out. So movement is very personal, and we all have our own biases. We all have our likes and dislikes. So, like, you know, be open and then try those things. And then again, don't quit when it gets hard. I mean, that will make you better as well, you know? So
that's awesome, man. Yeah, it's been great talking with you today, right? So again, right, if you are just new and tuning into this or just seeing this for the first time, please feel free to sign up, where we will get you the weekly listing of things that are coming. You can get that at www.apta.org/fit-4-practice. You know, remember that this is about you guys. This is about just finding ways that we can help each other out. And that's what all this is about. Again, totally free programming, PT, PTA, support worker, OT, ATC, strength. I don't care, whoever you are, right? Just come on in, right? This is for everybody. This is what this is about, and this is what we're here to do. So as we kind of wrap up today's video, I do want to tell everybody that, that you will see a series of these live engagements that we're having, where we can start bringing people in and start having more experts like yourself, Omi. Our next engagement, which will be next week, is featuring Dr. Kevin Wilk, famous PT GOAT, and a performance psychologist named Dr. Brett McCabe. And they're going to talk to us about mental resiliency and who's taking care of us, right? Like you said, we're so programmed to take care of everybody else, but who's taking care of us, right? And so if this is something that speaks to you, I encourage you to sign up, tune in next week when we have this next session coming up. And again, Fit for Practice is all about bringing you guys the resources that you need, bringing great people like Omi to come in, spend a little bit of time with us, and help us be where we need to be. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I'll see you guys again. Take care.